can predict, but spiritual laws are not predictable. From there we begin the
But our hands are different from our legs. The hand cannot act like the leg, nor can the leg act like the hand. The eyes cannot hear like the ears, nor can the ears see like the eyes. All these differences are technically called svajatya vijatya. The bodily limitation, whereby one part of the body cannot act as another part, is totally absent from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between his body and himself. He is completely spiritual. Therefore, there is no material difference between his body and his soul. Similarly, he is not different from his millions of incarnations and plenary expansions. Baladev is the first expansion of Krishna, and from Baladev expand Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. From Sankarshan there is again an expansion of Narayan, and from Narayan there is a second quadruple expansion of Sankarshan, Vasudev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Similarly, there are innumerable expansions of Krishna, but all of them are one. Krishna has many incarnations, such as Lord Nrsimha, Lord Boar, Lord Fish, and Lord Tortoise. But there is no difference between Krishna's original two-handed form, like that of a human being, and these incarnations of gigantic animal forms. Nor is there any difference between the action of one part of his body and that of another. His hands can act as his legs, his eyes can act as his ears, or his nose can act as another part of his body. Krishna's smelling and eating and hearing are all the same. We limited living entities have to use a particular part of the body for a particular purpose, but there is no such distinction for Krishna. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti. He can perform the activities of one limb with any other limb. So by analytical study of Krishna and his person, it is concluded that he is the complete whole. When he meditates, therefore, he meditates on himself. Self-meditation by ordinary men, designated in Sanskrit as soham, is simply imitation. Krishna may meditate on himself because he is the complete whole, but we cannot imitate him and meditate on ourselves. Our body is a designation. Krishna's body is not a designation. Krishna's body is also Krishna. There is no existence of anything foreign in Krishna. Whatever there is in Krishna is also Krishna. He is therefore the supreme, indestructible, complete existence, or the supreme truth. Krishna's existence is not relative existence. Everything else but Krishna is a relative truth. But Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Krishna does not depend on anything but himself for his existence. Our existence, however, is relative. For example, only when there is the light of the sun, the moon, or electricity are we able to see. Our seeing, therefore, is relative, and the light of the sun and moon and electricity is also relative. They are called illuminating only because we see them as such. But dependence and relativity do not exist in Krishna. His activities are not dependent on anyone else's appreciation, nor does he depend on anyone else's help. He is beyond the existence of limited time and space, and because he is transcendental to time and space, he cannot be covered by the illusion of Maya, whose activities are limited. In the Vedic literature, we find that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. Since all such potencies are emanations from him, there is no difference between him and his potencies. Certain philosophers say, however, that when Krishna comes, he accepts a material body. But even if it is accepted that when he comes to the material world, he accepts a material body, it should be concluded also that because the material energy is not different from him, this body does not act materially. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, therefore, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. Krishna is called the Supreme Brahman because he is the cause of creation, the cause of maintenance, and the cause of dissolution. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are different expansions of these material qualities. All these material qualities can act upon the conditioned souls, but there is no such action and reaction upon Krishna, because these qualities are simultaneously one with and different from him. Krishna himself is simply Satchidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of bliss and knowledge. And because of his inconceivable greatness, he is called the Supreme Brahman. His meditation on Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan is on himself only, and not on anything else beyond himself. This meditation cannot be imitated by the ordinary living entity. After his meditation, the Lord would regularly bathe early in the morning with clear, sanctified water. Then he would change into fresh clothing, cover himself with a wrapper, and then engage himself in his daily religious functions. Out of his many religious duties, the first was to offer oblations into the sacrificial fire and silently chant the Gayatri mantra. Lord Krishna, as the ideal householder, executed all the religious functions of the householder without deviation. When the sunrise became visible, the Lord would offer specific prayers to the sun god. The sun god and other demigods mentioned in the Vedic scriptures are described as different limbs of the body of Krishna, and it is the duty of the householder to offer respects to the demigods and great sages as well as the forefathers. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord has no specific duty to perform in this world, and yet he acts just like an ordinary man, living an ideal life within this material world. In accordance with Vedic ritualistic principles, the Lord would offer respects to the demigods. The regulative principle by which the demigods and forefathers are worshipped is called tarpan, which means pleasing. One's forefathers may have to take a body on another planet, but by performance of this tarpan system, they become very happy wherever they may be. It is the duty of the householder to make his family members happy, and by following this tarpan system, he can make his forefathers happy also. As the perfect exemplary householder, Lord Sri Krishna followed this tarpan system and offered respectful obeisances to the elderly, superior members of his family. His next duty was to give cows in charity to the Brahmins. Lord Krishna used to give as many as 13,084 cows. Each of them was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were covered with gold plating, and their hooves were silver-plated. All of them were full of milk due to having their firstborn calves with them, and they were very tame and peaceful. When the cows were given in charity to the Brahmins also were given nice silken garments, and each was given a deer skin and sufficient quantity of sesame grains. The Lord is generally known as Go Brahman Hitayat Shah, which means that his first duty is to see to the welfare of the... Thus he used to give cows in charity to the Brahmins with opulent decorations and paraphernalia. Then, wishing for the welfare of all
living entities, he would touch auspicious articles such as milk, honey, ghee or clarified butter, gold, jewels, and fire. Although the Lord is by nature very beautiful, due to the perfect figure of his transcendental body, he would dress himself in yellow garments and put on his necklace of Kaustuba jewels. He would wear flower garlands, smear his body with the pulp of sandalwood, and decorate himself with similar cosmetics and ornaments. It is said that the ornaments themselves became beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of the Lord. After decorating himself in this way, the Lord would then look at marble statues of the cow and calf, and visit temples of god or demigods, like Lord Shiva. There were many Brahmins who would come daily to see the Supreme Lord before taking their breakfast. They were anxious to see him, and he welcomed them. His next duty was to please all kinds of men belonging to the different castes, both in the city and within the palace compound. He made them happy by fulfilling their different desires, and when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very much pleased. The flower garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles offered to the Lord would be distributed by him first to the Brahmins and elderly members of the family, then to the queens, then to the ministers, and if there were still some balance, he would engage it for his own personal use. By the time the Lord finished all these daily duties and activities, his charioteer, Daruk, would come with his wonderful chariot, stand before the Lord with folded hands, intimating that the chariot was ready, and the Lord would come out of the palace to travel. Then the Lord, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on the chariot, just as the sun god rides on his chariot in the morning, appearing with his blazing rays on the surface of the world. When the Lord was about to leave his palaces, all the queens would look at him with feminine gestures. The Lord would respond to their greetings and smiles, attracting their hearts so much so that they would feel intense separation from the Lord. Then the Lord would go to the assembly house, known as Sudharma. It may be remembered that the Sudharma assembly house was taken away from the heavenly planet and re-established in the city of Dwarka. The specific significance of the assembly house was that anyone who entered it would be freed from the 6 kinds of material pangs, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. These are the webs of material existence, and as long as one remained in that assembly house of Sudharma, he would not be infected by these 6 material webs. The Lord would say goodbye in all the 16,000 palaces, and again he would become one and enter the Sudharma assembly house in procession with other members of the Yadu dynasty. After entering the assembly house, he used to sit on the exalted royal throne, and would be seen to emanate glaring rays of transcendental effulgence. In the midst of all the great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna resembled the full moon in the sky, surrounded by multi-luminaries. In the assembly house were professional jokers, dancers, musicians, and ballet girls, and as soon as the Lord sat on his throne, they would begin their respective functions to please the Lord and put him in a happy mood. First of all, the jokers would talk in such a way that the Lord and his associates would enjoy their humor, which would refresh the morning mood. The dramatic actors would then play their parts, and the dancing ballet girls would separately display their artistic movements. All these functions would be accompanied by the beating of mridanga drums and the sounds of the veena, flutes, and bells, followed by the sound of the pakavaj, another type of drum. Along with these musical vibrations, the auspicious sound of the conch shell would also be added. The professional singers, called sutas and magadas, would sing, and others would perform their dancing art. In this way, as devotees, they would offer respectful prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the learned Brahmins present in that assembly would chant Vedic hymns and explain them to the audience to the best of their knowledge. And sometimes some of them would recite old historical accounts of the activities of prominent kings. The Lord, accompanied by his associates, would be very much pleased to hear them. Once upon a time, a person arrived at the gateway of the assembly house, who was unknown to all the members of the assembly, and with the permission of Lord Krishna, he was admitted into the assembly by the doorkeeper. The doorkeeper was ordered to present him before the Lord, and the man appeared and offered his respectful obeisances unto the Lord with folded hands. It had happened that when King Jarasandha conquered all the other kingdoms, many kings did not bow their heads before Jarasandha, and consequently all of them, numbering 20,000, were arrested and made his prisoners. The man brought before Lord Krishna by the doorkeeper was a representative messenger from all these imprisoned kings. Being duly presented before the Lord, the man began to explain the actual situation as follows. My dear Lord, you are the eternal form of transcendental bliss and knowledge. As such, you are beyond the reach of the mental speculation or vocal description of any materialistic man within this world. A slight portion of your glories can be known by persons fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and by your grace only, such persons become freed from all material anxieties. My dear Lord, I am not one of these surrendered souls. I am still within the duality and illusion of this material existence. I have therefore come to take shelter of your lotus feet, for I am afraid of the cycle of birth and death. My dear Lord, I think that there are many living entities like me who are eternally entangled in fruitive activities and their reactions. They are never inclined to follow your instructions by performance of devotional service, although it is pleasing to the heart and most auspicious for one's existence. On the contrary, they are against the path of Krishna-conscious life, and they are wandering within the three worlds, impelled by the illusory energy of material existence. My dear Lord, who can estimate your mercy and your powerful activities? You are present always as the insurmountable force of eternal time, baffling the indefatigable desires of the materialists, who are thus repeatedly confused and frustrated. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you, in your form of eternal time. My dear Lord, you are the proprietor of all the worlds, and you have incarnated yourself with your plenary expansion, Lord Balaram. It is said that your appearance in this incarnation is for the purpose of protecting the faithful and destroying the miscreants. Under the circumstances, how is it possible that miscreants like Jarasandha can put us into such deplorable conditions of life against your authority? We are puzzled at the situation and cannot understand how it is possible. It may be that Jarasandha has been deputed to give us such trouble because of our past misdeeds. But we have heard from revealed scriptures that anyone who surrenders unto your lotus feet is immediately immune to the reactions of sinful life. I have therefore been deputed by all the imprisoned kings to offer ourselves wholeheartedly unto your shelter, and we hope that your lordship will now give us full protection. We have now come to the real conclusion of our lives. Our kingly positions were nothing but the reward of our past pious activities, just as our suffering imprisonment by Jarasandha is the result of our past impious activities. We realize now that the reactions of both pious and impious activities are temporary, and that we can never be happy in this conditioned life. The material body is awarded to us by the modes of material nature, and on account of this, we are full of anxieties. The material condition of life simply involves bearing the burden of this dead body. As a result of fruitive activities, we have thus been subjected to being beasts of burden for these bodies, and, being forced by conditioned life, we have given up the pleasing life of Krishna consciousness. Now we realize that we are the most foolish persons. We have been entangled in the network of material reactions due to our ignorance. We have therefore come to the shelter of your lotus feet, which can immediately eradicate all the results of fruitive action, and thus free us from the contamination of material pains and pleasures. Dear Lord, because we are now surrendered souls at your lotus feet, you can give us relief from the entrapment of fruitive action, made possible by the form of Jarasandha. Dear Lord, it is known to you that Jarasandha possesses the power of 10,000 elephants, and with this power he has imprisoned us, just as a lion hypnotizes a flock of sheep. My dear Lord, you have already fought with Jarasandha 18 times consecutively, out of which you have defeated him 17 times by surpassing his extraordinarily powerful position. But in your 18th fight, you exhibited your human behavior, and thus it appeared that you were defeated. My dear Lord, we know very well that Jarasandha cannot defeat you at any time, for your power, strength, resources, and authority are all unlimited. No one can equal you or surpass you. The appearance of defeat by Jarasandha in the 18th engagement was nothing but an exhibition of human behavior. Unfortunately, foolish Jarasandha could not understand your tricks, and he has since then become puffed up over his material power and prestige. Specifically, he has arrested and imprisoned us, knowing fully that as your devotees, we are subordinate to your sovereignty. Now I have explained our awful position. and your lordship can consider and do whatever you like. As the messenger and representative of all those imprisoned kings, I have submitted my words before your lordship and presented our prayers to you. All the kings are very anxious to see you, so that they can all personally surrender at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, be merciful upon them and act for their good fortune. At the very moment the messenger of the imprisoned kings was presenting his appeal before the Lord, the great sage Narad also arrived. Because he was a great saint, his hair was dazzling like gold, and when he entered the assembly house, it appeared that the sun god was personally present in the midst of the assembly. Lord Krishna is the worshipable master of even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Yet as soon as he saw that the sage Narad had arrived, he immediately stood up with his ministers and secretaries to receive the great sage and offer his respectful obeisances by bowing his head. The great sage Narad took a comfortable seat, and Lord Krishna worshipped him with all paraphernalia as required for the regular reception of a saintly person. While trying to satisfy Naradaji, Lord Krishna spoke the following words in his sweet and natural voice. My dear great sage among the demigods, I think that now everything is well within the three worlds. You are perfectly eligible to travel everywhere in space in the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems of this universe. Fortunately, when we meet you, we can very easily take information from your holiness of all the news of the three worlds. For within this cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Lord, there is nothing concealed from your knowledge. You know everything, and so I wish to question you. Are the Pandavas doing well? And what is the present plan of King Yudhishthira? Will you kindly let me know what they want to do at present? The great sage Narad spoke as follows. My dear Lord, you have spoken about the cosmic manifestation created by the Supreme Lord, but I know that you are the all-pervading Creator. Your energies are so extensive and inconceivable that even powerful personalities like Brahma, the Lord of this particular universe, cannot measure your inconceivable power. My dear Lord, you are present as the Supersoul in everyone's heart by your inconceivable potency, exactly like the fire which is present in everyone, but which no one can see directly. In conditioned life, every living entity is within the jurisdiction of the three modes of material nature. As such, they are unable to see your presence everywhere with their material eyes. By your grace, however, I have seen many times the action of your inconceivable potency. And therefore, when you ask me for the news of the Pandavas, which is not at all unknown to you, I am not surprised at your inquiry. My dear Lord, by your inconceivable potencies, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it, and again dissolve it. Only by dint of your inconceivable potency does this material world, although a shadow representation of the spiritual world, appear to be factual. No one can understand what you plan to do in the future. Your transcendental position is always inconceivable to everyone. As far as I am concerned, I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. In the bodily concept of knowledge, everyone is driven by material desires, and thus everyone develops new material bodies, one after another, in the cycle of birth and death. Being absorbed in such a concept of existence, one does not know how to get out of this encagement of the material body. By your causeless mercy, my Lord, you descend to exhibit your various transcendental pastimes, which are illuminating and full of glory. Therefore, I have no alternative but to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My dear Lord, you are the supreme Param Brahman, and your pastimes as an ordinary human are another tactical resource, exactly like a play on the stage in which the actor plays parts different from his own identity. You have inquired about your cousins, the Pandavas, in the role of their well-wisher, and therefore I shall let you know about their intentions. Now please hear me. First I may inform you that King Yudhishthir has all material opulences which are possible to achieve in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka. He has no material opulence for which to aspire, and yet he wants to perform Rajasuya sacrifices, only to get your association and please you. Narad informed Lord Krishna, King Yudhishthir is so opulent that he has attained all the opulences of Brahmaloka, even on this earthly planet. He is fully satisfied, and he does not need anything more. He is full in everything, but now he wants to worship you to achieve your causeless mercy, and I beg to request you to fulfill his desires. My dear Lord, in these great sacrificial performances by King Yudhishthir, there will be an assembly of all the demigods and all the famous kings of the world. My dear Lord, you are the supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, one who engages himself in your devotional service by the prescribed methods of hearing, chanting, and remembering, certainly becomes purified from the contamination of the modes of material nature, and what to speak of those who have the opportunity to see you and touch you directly. My dear Lord, you are the symbol of everything auspicious. Your transcendental name and fame have spread all over the universe, including the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The transcendental water which washes your lotus feet is known in the higher planetary system as Mandakini, in the lower planetary system as Bhogavati, and in this earthly planetary system as the Ganges. This sacred transcendental water flows throughout the entire universe, purifying wherever it flows. Just before the great sage Narad arrived in the Sudharma assembly house of Dwarka, Lord Krishna and his ministers and secretaries had been considering how to attack the kingdom of Jarasandha. Because they were seriously considering this subject, Narad's proposal that Lord Krishna go to Hastinapur for Maharaj Yudhishthir's great Rajasuya sacrifice did not much appeal to them. Lord Krishna could understand the intentions of his associates, because he is the ruler of even Lord Brahma. Therefore, in order to pacify them, he smilingly said to Uddhava, My dear Uddhava, you are always my well-wishing, confidential friend. I therefore wish to see everything through you, because I believe that your counsel is always right. I believe that you understand the whole situation perfectly. Therefore I am asking your opinion. What should I do? I have faith in you, and therefore I shall do whatever you advise. It was known to Uddhava that although Lord Krishna was acting like an ordinary man, he knew everything, past, present, and future. However, because the Lord was trying to consult with him, Uddhava, in order to render service to the Lord, began to speak. Thus,
Okay, just 2-3 minutes I'll summarize the section before the messenger comes to meet Lord Krishna. So, after Krishna did his morning meditation, he would bathe early in the morning because the real bath happens, mental bath is more purifying than the physical bath. So, Om Apavitro Pavitro Va Pundiri Kaksha. So, Bahya Pantara Shuchi Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. They chant Sri Vishnu 3 times. It mentally purifies first. Even if sometimes you are traveling, you are not able to take bath, especially you are traveling by flight or sometimes train, then it's best to chant this mantra 3 times, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. So chanting comes before the external purification. And you would wear fresh clothing, because the clothes you wear, they absorb all the negative energies in the body and the mind. That's why you should discard the clothes at the end of the day, at the end of the night, and wear fresh clothing. And he would cover himself with a wrapper. Wrapper means angavastra, like they call it, and cover the upper part of the body. And he would perform the daily religious functions. Although he is the Supreme Lord, he doesn't have to do this. To set an example for all the householders, he is doing it personally. And he would offer oblations to the sacrificial. Oblation means, as I said, like a food for the fire. The fire is the mouth of Lord Vishnu, Yagno by Vishnu. And you have to offer something to pacify the fire. And so the ghee and he would silently chant the Gayatri mantra. Gayatri mantra is to regulate the mind and the senses. And so Lord Krishna, as an ideal householder, executed all the religious functions of the householder without deviation. So Lord himself is not deviating. How we can afford to deviate? And when at the time of sunrise, he would offer special prayers to the sun god. And Suryanarayana, it is named. Suryanarayana is the sun god. There's a place on the way to Kurmakshetra. I think it's known as Aravalli. So that is a very nice place where is the only temple of the sun god. Of course, Konark is there, the sun. And so they are all the limbs of the body. They are serving the Lord in their different capacities. So the householder is also obliged to these demigods and the sages. Devarshi Bhutata Pitrana. Devarshi Bhutata, that is Devarshi means demigods, sages, all these obligations are there. Pitrana means forefathers. Because of the forefathers, we have got this human body. So we have an obligation. So although Krishna had no specific duty to perform, he just like acts like an ordinary human being uh, to show the importance of following the Vedic ritualistic principles, and also how we should respect the demigods. It's known as tarpana. Tarpa means pleasing, because they are also doing something on their part. Forefathers and demigods are providing us something. For example, they might have, especially forefathers, may have left behind some of their punya karmas for us to enjoy. Let's take a further, give us some properties. And so they have to be pleased by offering them these oblations. So here it says the forefathers may take a body in another planet. It's known as Pitraloka, somewhere near Yamaloka. And by performance of this Tarpana system, they become very happy. Just like by internet, we are able to transfer so much information to the other person and communicate with them. So this method is there to communicate with those people and satisfy them. And so it is the duty of householder to keep all the members of his family happy, not only the present one, the future generations and the forefathers. So even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to perform this kind of ceremony. Lord Sri Krishna followed the Sarpana system and offered respectful obeisance to the elderly superior members of his family. The next duty was he gave cows in charity to Brahmanas, because the Brahmanas have to perform sacrifices. For that they need milk, Panchagavya products, cow urine, cow dung, and all this cow ghee. So all that is coming from the cow, and therefore the Kshatriya's duty is to give the Brahmanas these cows. And he had many groups of 13,084 cows. They were decorated with silken cover and pearl necklaces, and the horns were covered with gold plating, hooves were silver plated. So, which means how much respect was given for the cows. The man's wealth was measured in how much cows and grains he could produce. And this, these cows are also very tame and peaceful. Tame means obedient and peaceful. So when the cow is peaceful, our mind also becomes peaceful. And the Brahmanas were also given nice clothing and deer skin. Deer skin is used to sit on the ground and meditate so that no insects and snakes will crawl over it, because it has some antiseptic properties. And they were given sufficient quantity of sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are used to offer to the sacrificial fire. And Krishna, known as Go Brahmana Hitayacha, his first duty is to the welfare of the cows and the Brahmanas, because they have no other shelter but the Lord. And he just not give the cows, along with the cows, he gave them all the different paraphernalia. And so because the cows have to be kept happy, they also want to be dressed nicely and have some ornaments on them. So he would also touch very auspicious articles like milk, honey, ghee, gold, jewels, and fire. So they have positive energy in them, and that is enlivens us. That's why we have to wear some jewelry on our body. Modern man avoids all these things as burden, but although the Lord was perfectly beautiful by himself, still he accepted all these ornaments to enhance his beauty, and also used to wear the flower garlands, fleshly, the Vanamali it is called, and then the sandalwood pulp, and different cosmetics and ornaments. And so they got beauty by being put on the Lord's body. So the Lord would then look at marble statues of the cow and calf. The cow and calf are so auspicious that just by looking at the statue, uh, just like in our ISKCON Chennai temple, the entrance they have kept the cow and calf. It invokes auspiciousness. And also temples of the gods and demigods like Lord Shiva. So if you see Jagannath temple, all the other demigod altars also there. And the Brahmanas used to see the Lord before taking their breakfast, and because they were anxious to see him and welcome them. So not only that, Krishna used to please the members of the different castes, uh, both in the city and within the palace compound. So he was pleased to see them happy, and all the garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and cosmetics were offered to him, and he would give them back to the Brahmanas and elder members of family, to the queens and the ministers. If something was left, he would keep it for his personal use. Then, by the time he had finished all these activities, his charioteer Daruga would come with his chariot and stand with folded hands. And then the Lord would, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on this chariot like the sun god and appear so brilliant with effulgence. And then all these women would try to look at him with feminine gestures, and he would reciprocate accordingly, and they would feel separation from him. Then he would go to the Sudharma assembly hall, which was brought from the heavenly planets and designed by Vishwakarma. And it had the specific power that whoever was inside that was free from the 6 kinds of material pangs like hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. And so when he would leave the palaces, all the 16,198 forms would merge into one and enter the assembly hall. Then he would sit on the throne and emit his effulgence. Then there would be jokers, dancers, musicians, ballet girls to entertain the Lord and put him in a happy mood. Although the Lord is always happy, still to enhance his happiness, they would serve him in different ways, and they would be playing of different musical instruments and the professional sutas and maras, singers. So, and this. So then the Brahmanas would chant Vedic hymns. They will recite old historical accounts of the activities of prominent kings. Then this way, the Lord would be very pleased with all their services. Thank you. We'll stop there. We'll continue on Monday. As we announced, tomorrow is that starting of the Bhagavad Gita online course for the IIT students primarily and whoever other audience also. So please try to participate. We are doing this to also train you on how to do outreach programs. The two things have to go on simultaneously. One is outreach, where you get newcomers, and then the Bhakti Viksha program is for cultivating the devotees who are taken up Krishna consciousness. So these two activities will keep you always healthy in Krishna consciousness and invoke the mercy of the Lord and save you from all the calamities. The more you don't do preaching, the more problems will come in life. So the early you start preaching, the better. So thank you for joining today. We'll meet again if possible tomorrow. And, although it's the same Bhagavad Gita, every time we speak, we get some new ideas, new thoughts, depending on the audience. Our presentation will obviously change. So try to participate. Just 1 hour, 7 to 8. Panchakalpatarapyascha kripasindubhya vachapatitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll end the session. Hare Krishna. Nachiket Prabhu, how are you?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dharmat.
Yes.
Prabhuji, health condition improving. Today I don't have any fever.
Okay.
And things are going to be normal.
Okay.
This will continue for next 2-3 days. Tomorrow again they will test. So what is the percentage left? And tomorrow again they will do the blood test also and swab test for COVID also. So accordingly they will plan out.
I ordered for those medicines also. I hope it reaches soon. I keep track of it. Your sister is asking about your sister. How is your sister?
My sister, I can't able to hear you. My sister recovered, Prabhuji.
ठीक है वो
Okay.
और घर वाले सब ठीक है
घर वाले वहाँ पे सब नॉर्मल हैं,
वेरी गुड
किसी को कोई सिम्टम नहीं आया। फिर भी नेक्स्ट 4-5 डेज के बाद और एक बार चेक करवा लेंगे उनका, तो फिर कुछ पता चलेगा।
ठीक से खाओ पियो रेस्ट करो सो
जी माँ।